Hi, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So if you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, you probably see that I post a lot of yoga photos, and because of that, I have been asked many times, how long have you been practicing? What have you done to get to where you are? Da, 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 da. So I figured I may as well just make a video on it. So this is my yoga story. So my yoga story starts way back in 2004, in the summer between grade 9 and grade 10. So I was a dancer from grade 7 all the way through high school. And so in the summer between grade 9 and grade 10, I decided that I wanted to use my babysitting money to buy myself a yoga pass for the summer. So there was a studio that was really close to my house called the Yoga Studio, Calgary, and they had a summer Sizzler pass, and I think the pass was like $200 for unlimited drop-in classes for the summer, so for the summer months. And so I spent my babysitting money, and I pretty much went to yoga like 4 or 5 times a week. By the end of the summer, I had pretty much paid like $2 a class. And I told everyone that I was going because I wanted to keep up my flexibility and my strength over the summer so that I could maintain that for dancing. But I think that what really was going on was that I just really loved yoga. So the studio that I practiced at was an Iyengar-based studio, and it's funny because Iyengar yoga is very rare, and I didn't know that at the time, but most studios are flow-based studios kind of at this point, or Bikram is really popular, hot yoga. So it was kind of serendipitous that I ended up at this Iyengar-based studio, which is very much focused on alignment. It's very much focused on holding postures for a very long time to develop strength and body awareness. And I believe that it was exactly what I needed at the time, because I was a very high-strung person and stressed out teenager, and I think that all the kind of the meditative quality of Iyengar yoga was really good for me. And then at the time, I didn't really know that there were other types of yoga. I was thinking that this is just what yoga was. So I did that for the summer between grade 9 and grade 10 in 2004, and then I didn't really practice much throughout the year. So during grade 10, I didn't do much practice, and then the summer between grade 10 and grade 11, I did the same thing again. I got the yoga pass and did the summer Sizzler, went every day for the entire summer. And then but I am almost positive that I did the same thing in between the summers of grade 11 and grade 12 as well. I'm pretty sure I did that summer Sizzler pass 3 years in a row. And like I said, I didn't really practice too much throughout the year when I was in school. It was more during the summers, and then I was dancing during the year. And then in 2007, I graduated in January. I graduated 6 months early, and I went on a trip to New Zealand. And I had a yoga DVD, and I brought it with me, and I remember, I don't think I did it even one time, because I was at a Bible college and they really frowned upon yoga. And so this was the other thing too, is that at this time I was a part of a Christian church. I was Christian, and not to say that this is how all Christians think, but it just the Christian church that I went to, no one was really telling me that I couldn't go to yoga and that I shouldn't go to yoga, but they were definitely questioning the whole yoga thing. I think they really believed that it was tied into Hinduism, and that it just wasn't Christian to be doing yoga. And so there was always kind of this weird part of me that, like, I didn't want to go because I didn't want to not be Christian, but I did want to go because I loved it so much. So then I got home from New Zealand in 2007. Yeah, 2007. And I started working at a health food store. So I worked at a health food store for a bit. So then by 2008, I was working at a restaurant. And I started to practice yoga again at the yoga studio I had been practicing at before. And all of a sudden they had an advertisement for needing a receptionist. And they're like, you get free yoga and all that stuff. So I applied for the job, and they essentially kind of hired me on the spot. And I started working at the yoga studio. So I was working at the desk, and it was a pretty boring job. And then in this time, I was also pretty much in the height of my anorexia. So this was in 2008. And so it was kind of like this weird thing. So by the time I got the job at the yoga studio, I was about 2 or 3 months away from being diagnosed. And so I was at my very lowest weight. I was really not healthy and kind of flaky, but I remember calling in sick often. And basically the owner of the studio kind of called me one day and was like, look, you can't do this. You have to come to work. If you're going to work for us, like, this isn't working. And she kind of kicked my butt, which was really great. And I kind of learned later that she had also suffered from an eating disorder. So I'm sure that she knew what was going on with me. And it was obviously obvious at that point. And so she was a very tough love kind of lady, and like I say, but she kind of she was trying to encourage me to get better in her own kind of way. And so in 2008 I was diagnosed, and I was still working at the studio, and I started my recovery. And I continued to work at the studio for another 3 or 4 months, I believe, while I started to recover, while I started to gain weight. And near the end of that, I decided to start my yoga teacher training with them. And so I did, I think, the first few sessions of my yoga teacher training, and I loved it. It was amazing. We were studying posture, and it was just so detail oriented. They were like literally teaching us every single position that every single muscle and bone in your body is supposed to be in when you're in Tadasana, and I was just fascinated. And then we had our first kind of like talk night, and the lady came in and she was talking about past lives, and she was talking about all this kind of stuff, and I was just like, okay, I can't do this. This is totally against my Christianity. Like, I don't believe in any of these things. And I just basically, I quit the program. And then the summer between so this was 2008, 2009. And then in the summer of 2009, my sister and I moved to Edmonton, and I started ballet school. So I did ballet school from September to January, and then I just decided that, you know what, I didn't want to be a ballet teacher, and that was pretty much going to be what I would do with this ballet school. And so I ended up going one time to this Ashtanga yoga studio and doing one Ashtanga yoga practice in Edmonton. And the lady was like, you should do your teacher training. There's a teacher training starting in January through YogaWorks, and you should totally do it. And I basically didn't ever think that I would do a teacher training after the teacher training that I kind of left in Calgary. But basically a week later I was signed up for this teacher training, and I started my teacher training in January 2010. And so I did my teacher training through YogaWorks in 2010. And it was a 6-month training, and so at this point I had been kind of moving away from Christianity and exploring my own spirituality. And I was also, at this point, I had recovered all the weight from anorexia, and I was back to eating kind of normally, but I still had a lot of really unhealthy behaviors with food and my body. And in my yoga teacher training, we started studying the yamas and niyamas. And one of them is ahimsa, or non-harming. And I was already vegan, so I was already kind of proud of myself that I was vegan and not causing harm. But then I realized, I was like, you know what, I'm causing harm to myself. And all of these practices and all of these things I'm doing, like, how can I call myself a yogi if I'm starving myself, essentially, and hating myself and berating myself? And I think that during that time of my life, like, that was really when I started to get better in my mind. Okay, so I did my teacher training, and then after that, for another 6 months, I don't think I practiced yoga. Oh no, that's not true. So then I really started practicing on a daily basis because of my yoga teacher training. I started doing the Ashtanga practice, which was totally new for me, like doing sun salutations and flows and all that stuff. I remember when I first started my yoga teacher training and we were doing sun salutations, I remember thinking like, this is not yoga, I don't know what she's doing, why are we moving so fast, why are we flowing between postures, like this is ridiculous, because I just had my Iyengar mind intact. So, and the yoga work style was a mixture of Iyengar and Ashtanga. So it started to broaden my horizons about what yoga could be and what yoga was. And then, so I finished my yoga teacher training summer of grade 10, or summer of 2010. And then in September of 2010, my sister, my boyfriend, and I, we all moved out to Vancouver. And the first job interview that I had was with a yoga studio, Semper Viva, and I didn't get the job. But that basically started me on my yoga practice again in Vancouver. So I bought a pass at Semper Viva, and I did a few 6-month stints there, basically for the next year and a half. So again, I wasn't practicing regularly. I was into a lot of different other forms of exercise, and I was doing like weightlifting and HIIT training and all of this stuff, and trying to get fit, trying to get skinny, and still struggling with an eating disorder, but doing way better at this point. And then in 2012, my partner and I went on a trip to Thailand, and I realized that I needed to act as though I loved myself. Like, that was basically the biggest realization that I had. I was still struggling very much with my body image and with loving myself, and I wasn't loving myself. And I had, like I said, I had fluctuated between practicing yoga and then not practicing, and going to the studio and not going to the studio. And basically I came to this realization while we were in Thailand. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop doing all of these things that I think are going to make me skinny, and I think are going to make me healthy, and I think are going to make me all of these things. And I'm just going to do what I want to do. So I thought to myself, like, if I could do any kind of exercise, what would I do? And my answer was yoga. I just wanted to do yoga. I didn't want to do all this other stuff. I just wanted to practice yoga. So basically in 2012, I started a daily practice. So every day, 6 days a week, I would practice either at the studio or at home. And essentially from there, the rest is history. I got to meet a lot of really cool teachers in Vancouver. So one of my favorite teachers, Reno, he now runs the yoga studio in Vancouver, Dharma Yoga Vancouver. And if you are in Vancouver, I highly, highly recommend you practice with him. His style is really amazing. But I met a lot of really great teachers at Semper Viva. But this was when I started to take my practice kind of into my own hands, and I started to practice on my own at home on a regular basis. And from there, that's been that. I've had a 6-day-a-week practice for the last 2.5, 3 years, and that's what I do for yoga. And so I don't take too many classes. I pretty much practice on my own. But that's because I had a really good, solid foundation from all those years of studio and all those years of teacher training and stuff like that. So now I practice a flow-based practice. I do lots of handstands, but that's just because that's what I love. I very much listen to my body. I very much listen to what feels good for me in the moment. And like I said, it's been a huge extension of my self-love practice. Yoga also made it so that I have been able to develop and sustain a meditation practice. So now I sit for an hour a day, and I've been doing that for the last year. And so basically my routine is I get up in the morning, I do my hour yoga practice, then I do my hour meditation, and then go on with my day. And it's been beautiful, and it's been wonderful. And so that is my yoga story. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, you can leave them down below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.